Hi guys, welcome to another live Facebook cross. We haven't done one for a while, so we're going to do another one today. We've got a hospitality class happening at the moment. They're doing desserts. This is their second or third lesson, I think, of desserts. So we're going to have a wander through. We'll check the menu out. Once we leave the kitchen, we're going to go down to Tony's group in the automotive garage. So they're also doing their practicals today, so that'll be very informative. So let's go and have a look in the hospitality kitchen and see what these guys are up to today.
Hi guys, welcome to AEA's practical session. Today the class is doing on dessert units. And today's session 3 and session 4. Come with me, I'll show you the menu for a second. Okay, so we're doing boiling ice cream, mixed with souffle, so you've got chocolate, lemon, berry, and cheese souffle, which is the savory souffle. A lot of skill is needed when you're making souffles, a lot of care is needed when you're making souffles. So students are enjoying today's session even more than what they've been doing in the previous sessions. In session 4 we've got some puddings. We have steamed sultana pudding, and we have apple fritter cooked in yeast batter and it's deep fried. Sticky date pudding, which is a favorite all over the world, and some garnishes and some sauces. Come with me now, I'll take you through my class as well today, and we will talk to the students as well. So we'll start with Nessa. Nessa, will you explain what you've done today and what you've learned today?
I'm doing the sticky date pudding with the butterscotch sauce. Yeah. It's a very easy recipe.
Okay, good. Liam, would you like to say hello to the camera and start by what you've done today?
Yes, my name is Liam. I like sauces today. I enjoy it. Thank you.
All right, come along. Okay, Kichima,
Hi.
one of the bright students in my class. So she want to explain what you've done today?
So we make the apple fritter today. So we have the after that we slice the apple and cook it and frying in the pan and serve with the ice cream.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay. Here we got Amrit doing strawberry souffles. As I've said, one of the souffles need a lot of skill, needs patience doing, and Amrit has decided to take upon because she believes she has a lot of skill and patience in making this dish. So again, so she's done well today. And now what's the other dish you're making?
Cheese souffle. We're going to make just already prepared everything. We're going to put in the oven, so it will take hardly 20 minutes. Then it will be. Let's see how things will go. Thank you.
And then we have Bashar here, who's the other bright student in my class, and he'll explain to you in a sec what he has decided to do today. Take away, Bashar.
We make the chocolate souffle, lemon souffle. For chocolate souffle, it's a mixture with butter, chocolate, sugar, a little bit flour. Then we make the souffle dishes that we brush with butter. Then we coat it with sugar. Then now we prepare the souffle and we want to bake it in the oven. So it will take about 10 minutes. That's it. That's all.
Okay guys, so there's a bit of information about our class today. So let's go for a wander. We're going to go have a look in the automotive garage now. All right, so let's go. And have a look. So this automotive group today is a brand new group. They've been studying at AEA for about 4 to 6 weeks now. So they're all basically new students. But Tony's a great teacher, and we're going to go and have a chat with Tony and see what he's up to today. I don't think they know we're coming, so we're going to surprise them. So as you can see, they're already busy at work. They're working on a car, but we're going to find out what they're up to.
The scanner is the tool that we use in today's electronic managed systems on fuel injection to diagnose and give us a path where the problem may be and what we need to take in an action way to repair the problem. So diagnosing the fault codes on this vehicle, it gives me a code PO325. NOx sensor 1, no signal. So we already removed the sensor from the vehicle. To remove it, and we had to remove the inlet manifold and get the inlet manifold out of the way because the sensor is buried down there on the engine block. It has to feel the knockings of the engine block, sending a signal to the computer so the computer can adjust and correct the timing depending on what is happening to the engine. A knock or pinging situation can occur in a way that with incorrect fuel, low octane fuel, or a lot of carbon inside the engine, having an incandescent bit on the top of the piston, for example, firing up and sparking up the mixture to create an explosion before the spark can happen. So it is a fact that the engines today, they require all these sensors to make emissions and efficiency more controllable and be a benefit for all of us and give more power to the engine. In this scenario, we did need to disconnect the sensor and remove it from the engine block. So we, at this point, have to clear the code because we have a new sensor to replace. At this point, let me clear the code and I go back on the, back in here, okay. All right, let's go back again. When we remove the sensor, we can test the sensor. I'll show you how to test the sensor. This is a NOx sensor. This part in here is a single wire sensor. So this wire that comes out of this output sensor is to communicate with the ECM, with the ECU or PCM to adjust the timing accordingly to the fuel or the explosion that is happening. To test this sensor, we have a multimeter. We have to dial the multimeter for volts, but we need an AC voltage. This sensor is a piezoelectric sensor. It's made with crystals inside that they vibrate with small vibrations. They vibrate the crystals, sending information to the computer. So this sensor, being an inductive type sensor, I can test it with AC voltage. If someone wants to hold the sensor, please, and put the red probe inside the connection of the sensor, the black probe of the meter is going to go on the ground of the sensor, and we're going to stabilize the voltage there, and we're going to test the sensor to see if it works. What do? We're going to give it a tap. You see the voltage went to 21 instead of 2, 3. Look, 33. So this sensor is perfectly good. So if you see this change on the sensor when it's tapped, if you give it a big tap, it's not connected inside properly maybe. Let Dylan make the connection, establish the connection. And if you give it a big tap, higher the voltage will go. If I keep tapping it, the voltage changes. That means that the sensor is good. So it's a way to test the sensor. The scan tool also can test the sensor. And if the sensor is faulty, because it will be part of an emission control device, the MIL engine check light will come on the dash. And in some vehicles will make the car to go onto a limp, to make the car to go on a limp mode, and the car won't behave correctly. You lose acceleration and you lose drive. Will allow you to get home until the vehicle is repaired. So this part is an important part in the engine management system. Dylan, can you please install the sensor on the spot where we had it before? You have to go, someone has to hold the manifold backwards. To install it, you might have to remove a lot of components. You might have to remove a few components. But whatever you need to do to get to it, that's what you do. Now, you please, can you assess on the book information about relative to this sensor? That sensor is very, very fragile. And that's why it's buried and protected there on the engine block. So when you tighten a sensor like this, you have to be careful with the alignments of the tool when you're torquing this sensor. Make sure that the tool is positioned correctly, and don't you need the backlight part of the sensor that can crack and break, destroying a $300 piece. Dylan has paid for a second-hand sensor $100. These sensors, they can cost up to $400 and $500. And being so tiny, you don't see the value of it, but they play an integral part in the engine management system. So please, the sensor is on. I will give a tap. So to show you how you should need, you will need a tubed socket.
The car is live.
Yes, switch it off, please. You can switch the ignition off. Good observation, yeah. And yes, we've got all the sensors connected. So the ignition is on. You have to be aware around the engine compartment that things are live, things are on. Now I want to put the light there, and I want to see.
So what are you up to, mate?
How can I tighten it in a awkward spot? I will have to use
about the
a
sensor.
tool that is
Okay, so you're having a look for it.
a long neck tool.
Right, excellent.
And
As you can
try
see,
to
guys, there's a
tighten
lot
it
of
as
equipment
best
out
as I
here,
can.
so we provide
Hold
great
this back.
facilities for all our students. All the models we have as well. We've got all our toolboxes behind you, so massive workshop.
So the tool doesn't use
So
wall
the students are
and break the
working
top
in
of
an
the
up-to-date
sensor.
facility.
Okay, I'm happy with that.
We'll just stick our
You
head
come
in
to
there and
loose
have a look,
because
see
it
what
will
they're up
suffer
to.
vibrations, and it will bring the engine check light again on. The sensor is on. Please add it. Go there, put your hands, and try to reconnect and put everything back together. And Dylan, please.
Hi guys, so this is one of our automotive teachers, Tony. So he's going to explain to you guys what he's doing today, what he's actually teaching the students today. So I'll give it to Tony now. He can explain a few things about what's happening.
Our class today is about the engine management system on a vehicle. And this car actually came up with a fault, which gave a code PO325. Code PO325 is related to no signal from the knock sensor. A knock sensor is a special sensor in the engine compartment attached to the engine block, where it senses the hammering knock, and which we know in the industry as pinging and knocking, and makes the changes on the timing required, so the spark has to be advanced to the ignition. So basically the spark will actually go and be active later on the position of the piston. And that is due to perhaps some sort of a carbon deposit on the top of the piston. It can be to a weakness on the fuel. A vehicle that requires 95 or 98 octane of fuel will not run on 91 correctly, and that's probably the case why the sensor noticed that failure. Today the sensors, they are very complicated in a way that only special equipment can test. Fortunately, we have that equipment around. We are able to test the sensor, and the sensor was available, so we actually putting the sensor back on the vehicle, and hopefully after we clean the fault codes, the fault will be repaired. There's a few procedures that the students have to go, a few measurements that they are undertaking right now, and they will come up with a report later on to observe all the situation and to make all the measurements to correct the repair. and we hopefully repair the vehicle for this student.
Excellent. Now, while I've got you here, Tony, can you explain to the guys watching what all this equipment here is? Obviously, this is part of your practical session today. Can you just explain to the guys what you're doing, what equipment's used and how it's used?
Okay, guys, look, the first and most important part of our training and teaching here at the school is a lot of information. We have to assess information so we know what we're doing, and we've got that information available to us. As you can see, we've got big books that we can read information. We have a scanner, what we called a communicator to the computer and electronic sensors and parts that the vehicle has, and that will give you a path from where the repair might be required. It won't tell you exactly what's wrong with it, but that path with some measurements from tools like we use constantly in our industry, multimeters that they can read sensors, understanding what to do and how to read them, we can find if they're faulty or if they are all right. Now we have a battery charger that we have to keep connected to the vehicle once we do testings on the vehicle, because we have to maintain ignitions on, and without the engines running we are going to use that energy from the battery. So we've got around us demonstrations of what happens into the engine side, tools to repair and gather all the information required for a good analysis for the repairs that we need to do. And all our tools are here, enough and plenty of good tools so we can repair any kind of issue that we have in motor vehicles today.
Excellent. All right. Okay, that's it from us today, guys. Hopefully you've got a bit of information about the day-to-day processes here at AEA, a hospitality class and also an automotive class. So stay tuned. We'll do another live video very shortly. So thanks for watching.